Right, good evening everybody and welcome to this Clansby Advisory Committee meeting, Tuesday 26th of June. We start down our agenda, so apologies for absence.
Yes, Chairman, we have apologies from Councillors Farmer and Calais, and we have Councillor Canfield who is substituting for Councillor Farmer.
Councillor Canfield, thank you for substituting. Right, do we have any declarations of interest? No? Good. Me likewise. No? Right, are you all happy for me to sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of May? Yes. Okay. Sorry, it was a long agenda. There's a lot of signing to this. Do we have any public questions?
None
Right. Right, we're now going to the main agenda, which is for the applications that we've received in the town hall in the past 3 weeks. As I mentioned earlier, I will be doing them slightly different order, and I will start off with the 2 Salisbury Avenue application. I'll find the right page.
That's on page 21.
Right here. Right.
We have,
So,
we have 2 speakers.
2 speakers, so we do.
So we have 2 speakers going to speak against the application coming first.
Right, okay, right. So I'll just read the details down. So this is planning reference 5/2018-1463. The proposal is for a construction of 2 apartment blocks comprising of 10 2-bedroom flats with associated parking and landscaping following demolition of the existing dwellings and outbuildings. Now this is a resubmission following the refusal of last year's application, which was 5/2017-3424, which was refused by the officers of the District Council, and it's obviously at 2 Salisbury Avenue, Harpenden. Right, so is the list there?
Just have a look. Right, our speaker against is Mrs. Helen Hendon.
So if you like to come, you've got 3 minutes.
Right. Okay. We do not believe this new application addresses the concerns raised last time by this committee in this revised scheme. Parking. No changes have been made to the actual parking spaces available, and whilst there has been a reduction from 11 to 10 flats, it is still only 1 space per flat plus 2 visitor space in total. These flats, no matter what you're about to be told, are not all 2-bedroom flats. 8 of them have a sizable study, which of course would just as easily be used as a bedroom, and 24 parking spaces are required to meet those standards. However, only 12 spaces are proposed. Even on the developer's own misleading 2-bedroom flat scenario, the standards require 20 parking spaces. And whilst these flats are close to town, downsizers or families, they are certainly not starter homes, that can afford to spend £1 million plus on a flat can easily afford to have a second car which will take one of the scarce on-street parking spaces. Parking in the avenues around this site is 100% saturated from 6:30 a.m. to mid-afternoon and has peaks in weekends, particularly around church services. The councillors already know this is a problem. In Julian Daly's recent election manifesto, he committed to tackling the acute parking problem, increasing parking in Amenbury Lane by 100 spaces, just 100 yards from this site. The increase in demand for on-street parking arising from this development alone would have reversed that by 10%. With regards to expansive brickwork, again, no material changes have been made. No changes at all to Block A in size. Block B floor area has reduced from 6,630 square feet to 6,534, a reduction of just 1%. The number of flats in Block B has been reduced by one, but there is now one enormous flat of 1,900 square feet on the top floor. It is twice the floor area of Units 3 and 4 in Block A. Block B is still 20 metres deep down into its plot, just 1 to 4 metres from our boundary. This would be the only building in the avenues which would be deeper into its plot than it is wide. It is still massively oversized, particularly on the third storey. Of course, you can find properties in the avenue with the height of these buildings or with this footprint and some close to boundaries. However, nowhere will you find all these characteristics in the same property. New in the application is 2 more windows facing our property, taking the running total to 14 facing our house, 9 of which are obscure glass, all of which are 1 to 4 metres from our garden, only 22 to 25 metres from all our rear windows. These new windows obviously add to the existing galaxy of lights that were previously proposed, as they are switched on at night time from the various kitchens, bathrooms, internal hallways and communal entrance halls that face us, with no screening being proposed by the developer on this site. Clearly we and 130 neighbours who objected to the scheme last time believe that this proposal was a massive overdevelopment of the site and would have a detrimental impact on the conservation area. We believe this application does not remedy any of your prior concerns and policies 39, 40, 70 and 85 apply.
Thanks very much.
And I have...
Just in time.
That's just a quick... Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Now we have... Who's going to speak? Mark. You likewise have 3 minutes.
I'm sure I won't need that. Good evening. As I'm sure you're well aware of our proposal, and hence I'd just like to specifically address how we've tackled the concerns raised on the previous application by local residents, the Town Council and the planning officers at St Albans, which simply can be broken down into 3 areas. 1, car parking, 2, design, 3, Section 106 contributions. On the car parking, as you can see, we've reduced the number from 11 to 10, with the result that each park now has 1 dedicated space, plus there are 2 visitor spaces. In addition, we have carried out further parking surveys of the surrounding area, which you can see in Appendix 2 of the Transport Statement, the results of which show that although busy, there are plenty of spaces available in Salisbury Avenue after 5 p.m. during the week and all days at weekends. We appreciate that there's still illegal parking in restricted areas, which does give rise to the perception that there are no free car parking spaces. However, it should be remembered that the site is highly sustainable, being less than 5 minutes walk from the town centre, and that although not age restricted, the likely demographic, older generation of our purchasers gives rise to a lower car ownership. This has been the case at the Foresters, where most of the residents only have 1 car, and they have 4 car parking spaces for approximately 20 units. And at Arden Grove, where we have a ratio of 1 space to 1 unit and no visitor spaces. Both properties operate without any problems in terms of overspill to the surrounding area. You are welcome to visit either of those developments at any time. In terms of the design, there have been a number of significant changes, and I'll draw your attention to page 27 of the DAS. I've got copies available if you would like. The main changes being the rear elevation of Block B has been reduced by 1.5 metres and now is subservient to the front element in keeping with the design approach of an Edwardian style. This has been reinforced through the introduction of white render, black timber boarding and a decorative brick which is in keeping with the surrounding buildings. It is envisaged that the refuse store for Block B will be brick enclosure and as such help reduce the potential noise level. In terms of Section 106 contribution, as part of our new application we have confirmed that we'll pay the full amounts due, including any from the community services if requested. In summary, you can see how we have addressed the concerns which have been raised for refusal in the previous application. In terms of car parking in particular, I would like you to note that no issue was raised either by the planning officers or Herts County Council in their advisory capacity on the highway. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, so a few words. Councillor Cooley.
Okay, well, I think actually this boils down to my mind to is there sufficient parking and also privacy and overbearing issues. But let me just go quickly through that. I printed out all of the permissions documents and I couldn't find one that said don't go ahead, basically.
Yes. Sorry, one
the
that
permissions documents on the website.
Yeah.
So all of them, none of them said don't go ahead. Okay.
No.
I think that, to my mind, the design is in sympathy with surrounding houses in the avenue. So I do appreciate everyone feels strongly about this. But anyway, let me continue. I think that the key thing for me is that there's a huge need for 1, 2 and 3 bedroom homes in Harpenden, and especially for those who want to downsize. And this really is convenient to the town centre for someone, and I'm sure that's why many people would like to live in the avenues because it's so convenient. So just summarising the whole thing, I think we've got, is there enough parking and is there a privacy problem? I understood also from looking at the complaints and that there were also concerns about shadowing, and I think that they have reduced the ridge height. So my personal feeling is that the parking is probably adequate because if we've got to be fair to planning throughout the whole of Harpenden. Okay, that is just my opinion. But so I think that really it boils down to parking and privacy for me. So I don't want to make a verdict yet till everyone's had a say and then I think.
Okay. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I agree to a certain extent with Councillor Cooley, but I'd like to apply the tests that we go up against each of the reasons for refusal on the last account and make up our minds as to whether we believe that they have or haven't met those. So without doing that, and it would be difficult to introduce something new that hasn't been said before at this late stage. Despite the fact it is a fresh application. But I think we go from there. So as far as SADC refusal is by reason of the proposed height and bulk of the rear projection of Block B, the result in the building of significant bulk and scale will fail to respect the established grain of development in the area, resulting in significant bulk of development towards the rear of the site that would fail to preserve and enhance and would be detrimental to the character and appearance of this part of the conservation area. Something I think that probably wasn't overly considered on the last occasion. And the surrounding street scene. So first one for me is to make up our minds whether we believe that the alterations have addressed that. I don't know where we're going on that one.
Difficult one.
And then I said, like, carry on after we. I think if we do it one by one, probably it would be the easier way to stretch it out.
Yep. I mean, unfortunately, the district council did not think that there was a parking problem. In their decision document, they gave the applicant not one word is mentioned in parking, neither has Herts County Council Road Department. So much as I personally am concerned about the parking, it is not a reason for this committee to refuse, because that wasn't part of the decision that was taken by the district council on the previous application. We can't introduce new reasons for refusal for this committee, and after all, we're only making comments, when it hasn't been raised already, so we can't introduce another one. So really, we then left with the other reasons for refusal. Height and bulk, I think it's been slightly reduced in height, if I can do that, and likewise bulk on block B, because they've reduced it by 1.5 metres. One flat. Is it come down by one?
Yeah, achieved for a reduction of ridge level of 1,500 millimetres.
Okay, so that was it. I know one of the submissions on the internet is showing the shadow and the way the sun goes. I know we haven't got that document in front of us here at the moment, but so I think that was never mentioned by the deliberation that was taken by the district council in their concern. And obviously we are in the conservation area, and I do have in front of me the rules for new buildings in the conservation area, which are quite detailed and I couldn't find anything in them that hadn't already been complied with. They talk about height, roofscape and skyline to be appropriate to the locality and street scene. Well, there are other buildings nearby which are similar 3 stories high. So I'm in a bit of a quandary here, personally.
I mean, can I just comment? I think that was a good summary, and Chris as well, a good summary. I think that you could say that there's definitely a lot of amenity to certain houses because of windows that back onto them. Yeah. I think that, personally, in terms of size and bulk, I think they've reduced it. But I have to say, I think that we need something. I don't think it's an overdevelopment, because Harpenden needs homes like this, and where do we put them if we don't start here? But it's just though really we've got to make a decision on, is the loss of amenity so great that it justifies refusal?
So we could say subject to no loss of amenities to adjoining property.
That's right.
And that the officers decide, because the planning officers, obviously in St Albans, have to make an ultimate decision, and they visit the site, take photographs and work out in that respect. As indeed if it came to, as indeed if it did come to plans north, we'd have a lot more information as far as the officers concerned, for the members of the committee, one of whom is my good self, would deliberate on, which obviously we haven't got in front of us here. We've only got the applicant's paperwork and indeed the statement by the objector.
Yes. Right. Well, I'm just going to say one
last
word about parking, because it is useful to benchmark other flats, other blocks of flats, and I think we've got to be a little bit careful about trying to invent new rules for a block of flats that's in the avenues versus elsewhere. I know it's a conservation area and I deeply sympathise with everybody, but it's just in other parts of Harpenden, flats have gone up with similar parking, and they're all overrun with cars, do you see what I mean? So we've got to be a little bit careful, but I think that the subject to no loss of amenity is really the way to go.
So subject to, we could
subject
say,
to,
and ask the officer in St Albans to
yes, that's right. Yes.
I mean, all I will say is on the parking element is the building not 2 yards away from us here went to the planning inspector in Bristol, and we've got 38 flats there and 36 parking spaces, which he said was acceptable because of the proximity to the town centre.
That's the problem. If you just say no, it goes to the planning inspector and you could end up with something you can't implement.
Well, it could end up with the first application,
Could end up with the first one, yeah.
so it's in that respect.
Yeah.
Councillor Camfield?
Well, so again, that it is examples like here and decisions that have been made by planning inspectors that gives us the problems at the end of the day. To be totally frank, never expected that to get through there, and we were certainly not pro it at the stages it was going through here. But these are the things that unfortunately we're guided by. If we go totally against what you might say the rule book, people just lose patience with us and don't listen, so we have to bear that in mind. I'm struggling to find absolute reasons for complete refusal. I do find that I find it uneasy what we call now called densification, but it appears to be a bit of a fact of life. Very, very difficult. So that's again sort of going where I came from before is that we need to reinforce what has been said on the previous applications if we can, and just use those. I mean, I can't see that we can recommend refusal on any particular one ground. So it's got to be, we express concern from my point of view, and I would like to see the parking straight in, because again, the mechanics of the parking and the effect that does have, being so close to the town centre, declare the interest living the other side of the railway in Cornwall Road, and know very much how that's affected and the dynamic is affected, and a small change can have a very, very significant impact. So again, that's it. So if I'd like to see parking staying in there as a concern.
Well, so we could say that the committee still raised concern on the parking provision.
Yeah.
And raised concern that detrimental effect.
Yeah, detrimental effect.
Any detrimental effect on neighbouring properties.
Yeah, and also mention provided previous reasons for refusal were addressed.
Yes, providing previous reasons. I mean, the reasons for refusal are quite detailed, as no doubt most of you have read on the internet. Unfortunately, we are not skilled enough to go through each of these, because we're not planning officers as such, to go through each of these and see whether they've been addressed to their satisfaction. But obviously, as I said to you at the beginning, we're only here in an advisory role. We have no power. We make comments, these are conveyed to St Albans, and we do hope then the officer reads them and acts on them to the best of their knowledge and indeed qualifications. I mean, they're fully qualified planning people and they know what they're doing. So that's what I'm putting forward with this committee's recommendation tonight. We're not saying no, we're not saying yes. We're trying to say we want the previous reasons to be addressed. We're raising concern for the parking, and we're raising a concern for any detrimental effect on any neighbouring properties.
And I'd like to emphasise the fact that the overlooking.
Yes,
the fact that we
have
have
lots of amenities to neighbouring properties. But again, unfortunately, we're not experts. We don't go into people's back gardens and try and work out what might or might not happen. So, you know, unfortunately, that's not one of our fortes that we can do. So, I know most of you were hoping that I would come up with a different decision tonight, but our hands really are tied, and we have to think of a planning reason. Okay, so I hope, I won't say I hope you're all happy with that, but I hope I've tried to explain to you the best of our ability as far as we, as a town council committee, can go. Okay, I'm happy to answer questions outside this room, but if anybody has another question they want to raise, please email me or call me. I'll try to help anyway, and I'll also help you anyway with anything else in the planning process. I understand that Councillor Stevens is going to call it in, so if it was granted, if the officers did recommend to grant this new application, it would come to Plans North in 2-3 months' time. I do sit on that committee, but we always declare at the beginning of the meeting that any decisions that we've taken in any previous committees, we look at everything afresh. Obviously, the difference at the Plans North committee is we have a lot more paperwork from the officers regarding the application in front of us, and we take guidance from their expertise. Okay, so that's as far as we can go on 2 Salisbury Avenue. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
I think the role has gone through them a little bit more depth, and I think that was a criticism from my well, I won't go any further. You know my thoughts and feelings on that one, so we won't start me off. Yes.
Okay, right, so we're now going on to, 48 Cold Harbour Lane next. Thank you.
Page 16.
Right, lie down.
What is this?
Right, so we've got this, the next application is 5/2018, 1184. 16. This proposal is for the demolition of the existing building and construction of 2 3-storey Class B in brackets office buildings and construction of a vehicle repair and servicing building with associated works. 48 Cold Harbour Lane, Harpenden. Right, we've got...
Mr. Roy Ibsen,
Can we step
please
forward?
again.
Yeah, please sit down. You've got 3
But I'll
minutes.
give it a go.
You've got 3 minutes to have your say.
The reason I object to this proposal is that the current buildings are about 1.25 stories high. The new one is going to be 3 stories high, and overlooking my property and all my neighbours. So I get no privacy whatsoever.
So can you just confirm where you live? Sorry.
Yeah, in Cold Harbour Lane. Right
You
on.
live on the opposite side of the road?
Exactly, yes,
Right,
because this is the only part of Cold Harbour Lane where the industrial development overlaps the residential.
Right, I understand. So before you get
Yeah.
to the no through bit.
Yeah, well, so that's where I'm coming from.
Right.
In addition, what will happen if you have 3 stories high, the number of cars that are coming into that building is going to be enormous. There's never enough parking spaces within these units, and the current situation in Cold Harbour Lane is ridiculous at the moment. And I don't want to dwell on that too long. I'm rejecting that those buildings will overlook my property and I have no privacy. Secondly, there's no information of the times that these places are going to be open. And to be honest, if you live in Cold Harbour Lane, it is so busy, 9 till 5, Monday to Friday and on Saturdays as well. And we want a bit of quietness down there. So I'd like some limit put on, say, for instance, 8 till 5, Monday to Friday, 8 till 1:30 on a Saturday, and no opening on a Sunday. So at least we've got some privacy.
Unfortunately, this committee has no power.
That's what I want. But the point is, it's a part and parcel of this. You can't detach one bit from another.
I understand.
And the through traffic now, Cold Harbour Lane is being run as a rat run because people try to avoid the low loop road. We need a lot more control in there, and with the volume of traffic as it comes to these new premises, it'll be absolutely silly. I'm going to keep it as blunt as that, because I reckon this will up the volume of traffic in Cold Harbour Lane by 20%, this new building. Now, that's a guesstimate, but I don't think I'll be far wrong, because these people temporary, well not temporary jobs, they're not full-time jobs a lot of them, so they're coming in there all day. Dear mums who drop the children off and then holiday times and so on. It's bad enough already. It's chaotic. But I don't know if you're have any responsibility for that, but it's an element of this building that's being proposed that worries me. I'm not too worried about there's a factory going to be there, because we've had one there since I've lived in 71. But this is just too big. The whole of this is just too big.
Okay.
I'll keep it short. You've asked for it. That's it.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you'd like to listen to our deliberation.
Yeah, I'll listen to your deliberation. Shall I move? So
That's it?
Yes, because we've got to...
yes, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got Mr. Martin again.
Yep. You likewise have 3 minutes.
Cold Harbour Lane. This application relates to the redevelopment of the former standing handling site for essentially 2 elements. One is for the potential relocation of Pan Autos from the current site down in Southdown, and the other part of the site relates to commercial development comprising of offices. We are fully aware of the parking issues, particularly along Cold Harbour Lane. Unfortunately, this relates to mostly off-site car parking, which is a mixture, I imagine, of existing employees and commuters. I think without restrictions along Cold Harbour Lane, it's probably not going to change, and there's not a lot we can do about that. What we've looked to do is to try to provide sufficient on-site car parking for our proposed uses. In terms of the concerns which were raised by Mr. Ibsen, I'm more than happy to meet with him after this meeting to discuss those, and particularly the overlooking issues, to see if there's any way in which we can mitigate and satisfy him on those particular concerns.
These people don't be complaining, but I know who it is and how it works.
Street scene,
I'm in there most days.
yeah, that's the one.
So it's 2 stories of offices, 1 story, not digging down.
Well, yeah, I mean,
That's
it's
fixed.
talking about it. So that's fine.
I think it'd be in there.
Yes, no, so some stilts, so, right.
Yeah.
And what we said, we've got 3
Hang on, sorry.
we've got 3 here,
I'll just let you know
so
that.
to mitigate that.
I don't want to be sort of the leader.
Okay, so, right, okay. I mean,
But of course you've
right.
got residential places there. No, I really find it brilliant. Still do.
Right, what I will say is, obviously,
Yeah.
right, what I will say is, as far as this committee is concerned, so we've got to go now. So we've got to start doing our deliberation. We've got a long agenda to try and get through. Obviously, in 2007, Stanley Handling obviously had permission to develop the site on a similar size as with office blocks. The only difference being they didn't have underground parking. Well, by underground, I mean under the
Undercroft.
yes, it's
Undercroft.
Undercroft. My apologies. So the offices being built on stilts so that people can park underneath. Obviously they can't dig down here because of the river. So obviously they can't put underground parking. It would be a permanent swimming pool. Any planning officer, although the planning application expired a few years ago, would automatically look back and would realise that the planning application was approved a little while ago. So in that respect, well, it might have been 11 years ago, but it still was granted on the site. Right, on to my colleagues. Councillor Phillips.
Just say a few words. I do totally sympathise with the building officer, actually. Because Pan Autos is moving on Grove Road, and I go up and down Grove Road every day, and I know about cars being tested and all this sort of thing. The only mitigation I can say is that, am I correct that on the street scene, this 3-storey high bit is going to be not as wide as the present 2-storey wide bit? Am I right? Because I think this is... that's
We'll look at the full size.
Oh, hang on, that's proposed. I've got that wrong, sorry. They're both, he's going to be facing quite a lot wide on one still. Yeah, thank you. I'd really like to understand what sort of mitigation could be made to this.
Obviously, looks like they've got landscape, they've got trees on the
yeah, so
landscape.
trees could be
Will
screened
mitigate
out.
There's only 2 trees,
Yeah, one each end.
one each end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
gentlemen looking sideways.
Yeah, we've got car park, there'll be car park in front of it,
Yeah.
and then the entrance to the car park before you get to the office block is quite a distance back. It will be more than the 25 metres
Yeah,
that
so
we have to.
I think it's going to be difficult to dispute it on planning because of that. It's just really whether anything can be done on that. I think in terms of parking, they are putting quite a bit of parking in here.
Yeah, I mean, they're allowed 60 spaces.
60 spaces, yes.
Which is quite good. Obviously, they do need to allow for the ones for the parking for the garage,
Yeah.
the servicing and that.
I've lived with Pan Autos for over 30 years. And it's not that bad,
No,
all I can say.
people do come and go.
People might say, well, hang on a minute, you can say that because they're moving, but there'll be something in its place, I'm sure.
We're not deliberating.
We're not deliberating on anything
Thank you.
yet.
No.
So,
Not a material
I think it's difficult to refuse, actually. Yeah, but we could express concerns over loss of immunity and...
We could ask for possibly more trees.
Yeah, we
We've
could
got
ask for more trees. It wouldn't do any harm, would it?
No, along the boundary.
Yeah, screen.
If space. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it gives me difficulty in as much as it has gone up effectively another story. It would be preferable to keep it at the height that it is, and then the big butt coming after that one. If we were to do that, where we're going to put the parking. And the parking is a real major concern again. I don't know that it's within Sewell's District Council's powers to stipulate the use of the parking, to designate it. My personal experience of garages is usually that they decline to allow the workers to park and the parkers have to go out on the street. I'm told that from personal experience for working at a garage as a courtesy driver a couple of years ago. And again, as ever in this town, the traffic and the parking gives me jip. And the fact that it could theoretically be a 7-day-a-week, 364 days a year operation also concerns me, but I'm grubbing around for the conditions that we would set in there.
Well, we can't control what the officers say. I think the garage at the moment only operates from 8:30 in the morning to 5, and then on Saturday finishes at 12.
Well, we can point towards the conditions that we think that would be of use, as we normally do. I think what I'm saying is
no extension of the current hours.
Well, absolutely not. There's
Yeah.
sort of the ban on Sunday trading, if that's possible. I don't actually know whether that was possible or feasible. It was a long time, so since
Well,
I've
they've
dealt with
never
commercial
opened
ones,
on a Sunday before. Certainly in 30 years I've been known in Southdown.
We could ask for more screening, as you say.
Yeah.
Well, again, it doesn't mean to say that panel will stay there. They could go
If it
To
goes
ask.
elsewhere, I agree.
And we can end up with somebody else taking over the premises with a totally different working thing, so we don't have to look at it as a specific,
No.
but the use.
Yes.
So-
Could we ask for the top set of windows to be?
No, it can't.
We can't ask for that sort of thing.
Not officers, no,
No.
you can't ask for them to be glazed, no. They're not directly overlooking.
But because the distance is
Is
greater
it more than
than
25 metres?
25 metres,
You can't,
really
no,
do it.
no. So, we could ask possibly for a little bit more screening, on the front between
Yes,
the car parking and the road,
yeah. And,
to mitigate any loss of amenities
that's
from
right,
the house opposite.
and some restrictions on the hours of
Yes.
use. Can we do that?
And hope that the, what, this was the original one, 2007? Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I didn't realise that. The 2007 application was 3 stories high as well.
On one of the buildings,
Yeah,
is that correct?
yeah.
2007, I'm not seeing that one here on my bin deck.
No, it's just
It's
on the
not on
internet,
there.
we picked it up.
Yeah, we had trouble with the website getting all the information. It kept
But this is the application to that. So, right, as far as this committee is concerned, if nobody wants to deliberate any more, we can say, what are we going to say? Subject to no loss of amenities to the property opposite, and put in brackets that we should have it, sorry?
Properties, yeah.
Yeah. Properties, suggest that there should be some tree screening at the, in front of the, between the car park and the road, and the garage operation, which is not the officers, the garage operation should have restriction on hours, 8:30 to 5, and Monday to Friday, and Saturday, 8:30 till midday.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's good.
Maybe we can put that on as a request condition. But other than that,
And
I mean, it is an industrial estate.
employee parking is a consideration.
Well, it's got 60 spaces, so that should cover
I'll say
20, yeah,
Okay,
so I'm
still,
hoping
still
that-
what I say is,
well,
the
there
company
is,
I work for, there was plenty of parking, but of course they didn't want that too, because it was commercially viable to
No,
use
there is.
parking spaces for all.
Well, 28
parking
for
spaces
Panautos
for
Park.
Panautos. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's 54 for the office building and 27 for panels.
Okay, so that.
How many spaces you've got at the other end of the Cold Harbour Lane with water side?
119 spaces, but there's...
Well, that's not enough, because they're all in the road outside.
The spaces in the road outside are the ones on the big industrial estate that they just built.
Yeah.
We've got 2 now.
I'm just saying, that's
So, just to reiterate, I think you were here when I was there at the beginning, and I said we have no planning reason to recommend refusal. We've put a couple of qualifications on. I think the parking provision now, which we think is now 8 in total for the 3 operations there, the 2 office blocks and Panautos garage will be 81 spaces in total, if we read it correctly, which is quite substantial. It's probably more than any other development in Cold Harbour Lane. And all I will say, as far as the road is concerned, this is not on this development site, there is at the moment research being done by the Town Council for the whole parking structure for the whole of Harpenden. Cold Harbour Lane is on our list of something we need to do more investigation. So all I will say is, the current application that's before us tonight is doing the job, as far as we're concerned, the right way. Some of the other operators in Cold Harbour Lane need a little bit more nurturing, which obviously we'll be looking into as a town council, in conjunction with Arts Highways and the district council, because we have no power on parking, just recommend.
Of course.
Yes, but all I'll say is it's on the radar we are looking into it, please, we'll do what we can do.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'm intrigued to know how many staff the entire complex would potentially.
We don't know.
Just looking at those plans and the floor area on it.
Well, all I'll say is that
I'd say parking woefully inadequate for the amount of people that could potentially be working there.
Well, Clown and Craven, which obviously are an export down the corner on Lower Road, have got 200 staff and 55 spaces.
The other
Because
bit,
most of them come out
sorry,
to commute.
the other bit that concerned me, which is not on any of it, is the lorries turning around.
Well, unfortunately, we've got no power.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they should go on site to wait.
Well, obviously, the lorries can't get down because the new bollards halfway down. So.
After they come the other way.
Oh, right. I'm sorry.
That's what
That is not
concerned
concerned to.
I'd shut the lane off halfway, that people can enter it either way, but you get no through cutting there.
Right, okay.
That's
We
it.
can't, unfortunately, we can't debate
No,
that
I will
tonight.
not discuss it.
We've done our best.
Yep, I'll believe you.
And,
Sorry.
You know,
No, I'm not knocking it, just
no, I explained that, we are a planning committee that make comments. We have no direct.
yeah, fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very
I
much.
hope that you've heard a little bit tonight, and see what we can do. And
We come talk it through. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure we can come to an amicable arrangement between both parties.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah, I think we will.
Yeah.
Good, right, we've got to move on, because we've got a long agenda to get through, and some of us have to get to bed.
I want to watch your football.
What's that? And what's that?
Right. Right, sorry, we're going to move forward now to, we'll do,
Do Hollybush. Station Road would be handy.
Do Hollybush, fine.
we'll do Hollybush first.
Oh,
then.
sorry,
Yep.
both, sorry, Peacock. Favour me on that one because I've lost the plot.
Right, Hollybush Lane's on page 13.
Thank you. Oh,
Yep,
right,
right at the beginning.
thank you.
Right, committee,
And
come to order. Right, we're on 5/2018, 11:56. The proposal for the demolition of the existing buildings and construction of 8 semi-detached dwellings. A detached double garage, associated landscaping and parking. The current properties 37, 39 and 41 Hollybush Lane. We have
okay. Oh, we have Mr. Marjorie.
Can I nominate my colleague?
Yes.
I think you're bored of listening to him.
I bored you to death.
Probably bored of listening to me.
You, likewise, have 3 minutes.
Just to try and clarify the history for you, effectively we have detailed planning permission for the 4 houses to the rear. We have planning permission to convert the front office building to residential. Having secured those consents, we then applied to develop 9 houses on the entire site, 4 pairs of semis and 1 detached. The Town Council reviewed these plans in March early this year and had no objection. However, as we progressed our planning discussions with St Albans, whilst they had no objection in principle to the development, they had a number of concerns. They felt the site was being overdeveloped. They were concerned at the number of new access points onto Hollybush Lane, and they were concerned about the loss of the hedgerow on the street and some of the adjacent trees at the back of the site. We therefore decided to withdraw our application, and before you now is a revised scheme which is being prepared after further consultation with both the adjoining neighbours and St Albans district planners. We have removed the single detached house, so we now just have 4 pairs of semis. As a result, the density has been substantially reduced. The street hedge has been retained, and the key rear boundary trees can now also be retained. Not an issue raised by St Albans, but I know a concern to the Town Council. On-site car parking ratios are further improved, with at least 2 spaces per dwelling, plus on-site visitor spaces. I don't believe there have been any neighbour objections, and hope you will reach the same conclusion. This is a favourable conclusion for a favourable, appropriate-sized housing and a highly sustainable area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cooley.
Well, basically, I think although these are fairly substantial, they do follow our requirement for more 1, 2 and 3 bedroom homes. I think are these 3 or 4 bedroom? 3, that's right. One thing though, in terms of objection, I did, when I on the website, there was an objection about the fact survey required before the application can be determined. Said it would be incomplete.
It's 4 bedrooms, is it? Well, so my apologies, it's 4 bedrooms.
Oh, it's 4 bedroom.
So my apologies,
Okay.
so misread.
I thought, originally I thought there was 3 bedroom. Anyway, highways said no problem. Network rails, okay. It's just really the fact survey being incomplete was my only objection in planning terms I could think of.
Okay.
I've only the usual concerns about parking, but I don't think it's that bad on that side of the road. And we've had history with the sites and the one on the opposite side. Some conversation over that, but I'm minded to say approve on this one, subject to parking being sufficient. And as far as I can look at it and see, it is out there. And it's not so crucial up in that area as it is over the avenue side.
No, we obviously haven't got the officer's report yet. I mean, my concerns and I know the representatives from Jarvis, now I regularly raise this, but the thought of 8 dwellings, 24 bins being put out the front on a Monday morning does concern me to the poor person who's going to have 24 bins outside their front door. Now, I understood the rules were, and the District Council are reiterating those to this day, is that bins cannot be moved more than 25 metres from a house. And unfortunately, that furthest house, I think, is a little bit more than 25 metres from the entrance where they're going to put the bins. So I would like to see the officers' report in St Albans and see where they think 24 bins are going to go. I only know because we have it as a problem where I live, where the neighbours insist on putting the bins out at 5 o'clock in the morning before they commute and wake up the whole road.
Yeah, we do the night before.
Pardon? Well, they don't, but this is another story. But no, and it's a constant bugbear of mine, and it is obviously everybody in this little cul-de-sac has got to, the only people going to be affected are themselves, really. But it's still a concern of mine, is where would the bins sit all day until they're collected, or the people come home from work. 24 bins sitting on the pavement there doesn't look very nice.
Right,
So I would like some better provision on the entrance for either storage of bins or some different provision. But it is a worry for me, that quantity, where a bin lorry cannot have direct access. So that's my only concern. I know we've got permission already for 4 on the site, and I like the idea of the cul-de-sac in, and indeed to get 8 units. So that is my only concern there, is that, and indeed, bearing in mind, that could have a detrimental effect on adjoining properties if that many bins were put outside your house. Bear in mind that we might be going on to we might eventually go on to a 3-week cycle rather than a 2-week cycle. But that's so that is a little bit of a concern.
I think it's a valid concern.
So
having raised that concern though, what are the reasons why the bin lorry can't, with that number of dwellings, go into the site?
it's not like reverse.
You can't turn
You
around.
can't reverse more than 30 metres. Well, the other thing is, if you reverse it down, no one will get out. Catching 24 bins.
That then bounces on to, are we okay with emergency vehicles like fire engines and the rest of it?
Well, obviously they wouldn't need to. They wouldn't.
In-house catches on fire whales.
Well, they can drive down, and obviously eventually somebody have to help them get out. But We haven't, unfortunately, at this moment, we haven't got Hearts Highways report. We haven't got, it's too early. So,
Was a subject to, isn't it?
yeah, subject to Hearts Highways approving access.
And SAD, see the collection of,
Yeah, SAD confirming.
or the storage stroke location of bins for collection.
Yeah,
And I think it's also subject to that survey.
yes,
If that's
and as Councillor Cooper says,
Plus we can note the fact that that survey would appear to be incomplete. I mean, sometimes they take time.
it obviously would be the trees. So,
So I think that
other than that, you know, I like it, subject to.
can we say that we have some concerns over emergency vehicles?
And access to the site for emergency vehicles. We'd like confirmation from highways that the width of the road enables them to access the site.
Can I just mention something on the back survey, because on the report, he says, I understand this application has been withdrawn since we originally consulted. So,
That could have been the last one, because obviously the last one was withdrawn.
yeah.
There was an earlier one withdrawn for the 9 units. So we could have been doing the VAT survey when the last application was being withdrawn. This is a new application from scratch, so unfortunately we only can look at the current one.
Yeah, that was the only objection I could find.
Right.
Was that
Thank
by,
you for your
was that by a
research.
neighbour or, I didn't see that one personally.
No, this was, and I've cut the name off actually.
Oh,
It's the Hearts and Middlesex Wildlife Trust, that's the
right, okay, fine, I understand, yeah.
greenhouse.
It's okay,
Mhm.
we've managed to get
Yep,
to put that down our concerns.
yep.
So the gist of it was, Jarvis, that we weren't anti it, we just would like a bit more confirmation from district regarding access, the refuse collection and how they're happy with 24 bins, and Arts Highways to confirm access for any emergency vehicle.
I'm sure we can sort those out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lovely.
Thank you very
thank you.
much for your attendance and
Thank you.
doing your half our work this evening, but
Well, at least you had a
I hope
decent...
we've done it fairly, you know.
No,
I always try very hard and
Yeah.
you know, make sure everybody's happy.
I think I lost a barrel of overcoats tonight, but then.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. Thanks very much indeed. Right, we're on to yours now. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No, that's fine, that's fine. They are actually my clients.
Tidy up this last one.
And I didn't realise they were coming actually, to be
We'll
honest.
just tidy up the...
I'm hoping mine will be very simple compared to yours.
That's my bit. That's mine too.
May I have some water?
Right, this is
Is that all
Oh,
right?
yes, absolutely, go ahead please.
Thank you, Rose.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
You remind me of the page,
Yeah, what page are you on?
just the water leak, 14.
Thank you.
Right. Right, we're on page 14 and we're on to 2018 1226. The proposal is a change of use from Class A1 retail, which was originally the Corporate Travel Agents, to a mixed use Class A1, A3 retail, restaurant and cafe, Port Station Road, Harpenden, for the pudding stop, which most of us know was already in Harpenden on the concourse.
Right,
So,
and
right.
this is Stella.
Right,
That's
we're
yeah.
all
Thank you.
giants.
I should have bought some cakes and things, shouldn't I?
No,
There we
we're not
are.
allowed. We're not
No,
allowed,
no, I know
We're
it.
not allowed bribery.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, I'm sure you've all
Should have arrived at brown envelope.
I'm sure you've all tried to make sure. Anyway, thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. Basically, as you know, the pudding shop has done extremely well in St Albans by the station, and it's currently on the concourse. Did you say the concourse?
It's on the concourse.
Just, it's in Harpenden as a van. We have an opportunity here to actually take over one of the units, which, as you said, was vacated by the co-op. As I understand, it's very popular with the clients, and in fact, all the people here earlier that were voicing their opinions to the other applications said, oh, brilliant, excellent, lovely, I hope that gets through, because we're looking forward to having that in Harpenden. As you mentioned earlier, Chair, basically this is a mixed use A1, A3. The existing premises for the co-op was an A1 unit. I think, in my opinion, it's basically an A1 with an A3 attached to it. The purpose would be beneficial for the local town. In fact, the gentleman who actually runs this is the chap that was on the Breach Bay Co-op, and he wanted me to run through a number of advantages for the town, such as if we draw comparisons to the St Albans branch, they employ 20 full-time staff, 7 part-time staff, and this would be replicated again in Harpenden. They use school and apprenticeship and graduate schemes to boost the economy there, and they have national acclaim for their products, including a feature in the Waitrose magazine. What they have got is a proven track record that they can actually survive in what is a difficult climate for the retail, as you can all see in terms of the press. So you've got issues with the main retail stores such as House of Fraser, etc., etc. Now, they're an active part of the community, helping the schools and parks to raise funds for projects they're looking at, and they also choose local produce from merchants to supply their business to boost the local economy. So basically, you have it in a nutshell. The pudding shop would like to open for Station Road. It has a proven track record, and would like to know. I think that it was quite evident for the people that were here before that they were quite keen to see that happen. Next door, if you know it, to Simmons, I think, is the bakery. It's got a very similar sort of use in their shop as well, but obviously he does puddings. That's the end of it, really. Over to you. If you've got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Sadly, we're not allowed to, but...
Okay, no problem.
It doesn't stop me normally. One concern I have, and I spoke to Pudding Shop Man sadly a week ago, explained who I was. I've just received his submission by email, and he told me his application was in regarding this. And as he said quite at the time, he was, and this is not a planning reason, as he says, he needed some legal advice
on the access to the rear.
The access to the rear.
He is.
And I know he said that was the. This is not a planning reason.
No.
So we have no reason. The fact that he has put on his plan land that he doesn't own. Now I presume he's buying a lease, he's not buying the freehold, is he?
No, he's got a leasehold.
He's got a lease.
Yeah.
So obviously this is an agreement which he has to have with the landlord.
Correct.
Not something that comes under planning.
Correct.
Okay. So
that I believe he's told me has been sorted.
Yeah, he said he was addressing it, and he hoped by the time it reached St Albans he'd be able to give more facts to the
that's fine.
Again, it's not a planning reason even for them to make the decision. It's legal. It's not something that we get involved in.
Indeed.
It's a bit like covenants on property and all the rest of it. It's not a planning reason. I personally am wholly supportive. I don't like an empty shop, and anything that keeps Station Road alive, I'm grateful for. Simmons, I know, didn't object, but competition is not a reason for objection. It's not a planning reason.
It's usually helping them. I mean, in fact, who it is not a material planning consideration.
No.
It's just a change from A1 to A3 as to whether we approve that.
Yeah, I mean, I am concerned, and I know the co-op, sadly being in the travel industry as well, did have a problem with receiving deliveries of brochures because the only access they had was through the front door. And I know the people who were delivering brochures cursed it because there was nowhere to stop outside. So I know Station Road is always a problem with parking, and I'm presuming at the times of the day that they might be doing be early in the morning to getting deliveries in, they might get away with being able to park outside. So this proviso for access from the rear, I think, is quite important to for their trade. You know, to even to get deliveries in of any sort. because it is a major problem in Station Road. So, I mean, that's my own knowledge in that respect. But I'm not anti the change of use. I think it's good, Station Road, in that respect. Councillor Cooley.
Thank you. I did find the thing you were talking about land use on the web, and it's dated 21st of June, so it arrived at SADC, so hopefully that might have been resolved, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a letter of objection saying, we strongly recommend that on that street there are too many restaurants and cafe bars, etc. Recently we got a few more. We're please urging you to stop the process of the application and we don't want any more restaurants. I understand.
It's retail, unfortunately.
It's a retail.
Yep.
Now there's another one which I think we could say on this planning thing, because it says, dear planning, this is from David Webb, the Environmental Protection Officer at SADC. He's saying, dear planning, the
About
applicant...
extraction.
Yeah, extraction.
Yeah, it'll be an internal extraction thing. They've already started talking
Okay.
about that, so you don't have any external
No.
from that.
Shall I just read this and then just... The applicant will need to provide further details of all machinery and equipment to be installed or operated in connection with carrying out this permission, with particular attention to the proposed noise attenuation and odour control measures for the catering extraction system. So to provide evidence that the noise from the extraction system does not at any time increase the ambient equivalent continuous noise level.
We got that from the email from the planning officer today, so that's in place.
That was good, thank you very much. So again, subject to, so I would say that the, sorry, Councillor Camfield.
Thank you.
I'm not ignoring you. Right.
Right. There used to be a formula as to how many food establishments we could have, particularly affected Station Road, and its quota very much relied upon the frontage of the old post office. I don't know whether that still applies. It's not one that I've come across lately or heard. I am concerned that there are rather too many in that street already. We've mentioned the delivery problems. I'm not shy of saying the one in the new one, whatever it's called, in the post office is causing problems with their deliveries in all two lorries parking there. Not important again. So again, the access is certainly a problem. And like most councillors, I've got that dilemma that I would like to see shops in service and in use rather than standing vacant that one's for quite a long time. I mean, I'll ask the question, does that still apply? Is there a formula anymore for how many takeaways you can have in a street or restaurants or food establishments?
Not to my knowledge, doesn't
it? Used
to. St Albans used to have a rule.
It used to be. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yes, I mean.
It's not memory playing tricks with me.
No, there was
Thank you.
all I will say is the street is still alive. Everybody did feel with the post office closing that it might kill the street. We haven't got any. I think there's only one other empty property, which is Rollings. The wine.
Well, they're cracking on with doing that now, and the dog
shop, which sadly had its fire.
Yeah.
But no, the street is alive, and I personally am just happy for a trade to be willing to, certainly a trade that's already proved, rather than being another charity shop or another bank or building society.
I am like to say a bank or a building society.
No, but it's just the. Sadly, we lost another travel agents, and being in the industry, it's always sad to lose that. But that's the state of the world.
Yeah, I was going to say, who's not the material thing? It's what and whether.
No, exactly.
I mean,
it's retail to retail, as far as I'm concerned.
Given the others that are up High Street there already, I don't believe that it's going to cause us a problem with people parking and wanting to pop in.
No,
so that's not material. There is sufficient parking on that street. It's already been said that we're going to address the parking. So I'm aware, particularly on the other side of the road, that those that back onto the post office have got no back door. all of their deliveries have to go into the plant. In fact, it's down to the wisdom of those that have taken on the premises.
Would they let them in that way?
Well, no, because they can't, because they've got no back.
Oh, no,
they're backing onto the property in
So they can only take it through the front.
so again, I mean, with this one, it would look like there is a solution, but it's a matter for law and it's outside of the planning bit. But I would like to see it solved. So I think
it's been addressed, isn't it?
Yeah. We'll take that back. I mean, they're looking at it already. They've been talking about that for a while.
I think that obviously we have a letter of concern here that obviously from one of the other retailers who uses similar space to the rear, but I'm sure it's something which can come to an amicable agreement, as long as it's not Joe public parking down there, as long as it connects with the shops. I'm sure, but this is more of a technicality outside the reins of planning.
Okay.
So I mean,
so I'll just hold on more.
I would like to say, as far as we're concerned, as a committee, we would like to support this change of use, subject to conditions raised by the officers at the district council and securing a rear access for deliveries.
Yes. Just coming with one bit on that rear access side is I'm not quite sure what size of lorries that they will have.
Well, they don't have, bringing flour or what have you is not huge lorries.
I don't know, sometimes they are.
Well, they wouldn't get in, they couldn't
get
the
problem. So that was
if they know it's only access to
so again, if we end up with one part outside the old post office, a large lorry and one on that side, the station road is just going to be an impossibility. So traffic concerns.
So consideration, really.
Okay. I can certainly take that back.
On paper, I'm wholly supportive of any retail staying, it being part of the town. If we can address these couple of points, and I'm sure that St Albans might come back and ask for similar clarification.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
As you heard me say earlier, if you were here, we're only here in an advisory capacity, and
don't worry,
we do our best. If you've been to any of my meetings before, I try and be very fair.
Well, if you don't worry, I do thousands of these.
No, well, sadly, so do I. No, but I do find it difficult trying to keep the balance between both sides of the
No, it can be very difficult at times.
But on the other hand, I understand development has to take place, change of use has to take place, and I want to keep the town alive.
Thank you.
So,
I will certainly take that back.
On paper, we're okay with it, and I'm sure that the couple of problems we've raised, he'll be addressing.
Brilliant.
Thank
you very much.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
thank you for your patience.
No problem whatsoever. I do hope the rest of your evening's not too long.
And I had to do the two Salisbury first.
Honestly, don't worry. They're my clients. I do a lot of work with Jarvis, and it's not.
I know them well, but obviously this is a business footing tonight, and
no problem.
Okay. But thank you for attending.
No worries. Take care now.
Right, team. I think we've already got more to do. 3, 4, well, 1, 2, we're only 6 in total. By the way, thank you both for your support and help tonight.
If we spread it out a bit, I feel that we have to go through it.
Well, I did feel that, I'm not going through each of the applications unless we've got to make comments on them tonight, unless anybody wants to raise any of them. There's no reason to list everyone saying, I agree with Mim's comments. I've agreed with everything she's done, other than the ones that we suggested that we should be looking at. Right, done that one.
Can I tell you something?
Sorry, of course you can do it. What page are you on?
It's on page 15.
15.
2018/1218/1284.
Yep.
This is
40 Granbury
Avenue. I've looked at that house because the parking's always a hot topic. I wasn't able really to get the plans because of the problems with the website. But I do know the houses next door to it have got they've got windows on the sides facing his property. So I don't know whether there's a loss of immunity to them with what they're doing.
So which one are we on?
We would qualify it by saying,
Page 15, 52018124. It's
20 Grundy Avenue.
40
goes the way down.
Yes.
Well, we could say concerned that loss of amenities to adjoining property.
But I think so, yes.
We must have to add that to it, I think. I mean, we've already said about the parking.
I totally agree with you on the on-site parking, but
Okay, yep.
thank you. Yeah,
Thank you, Councillor Cooley. Right, so now we're at the bottom of page 17. Replacement dwelling and garage with associated access and landscaping, part retrospective at Eastmoor Lodge, East Common, Harpenden. So this is a difficult one, but I take guidance from you all. If anybody's had a chance to just wait for them to get the paperwork out.
This is conservation. Yes, it is.
Right, so this was for demolish and rebuild of part to first floor level following investigation of foundation. Following to do an architect's report. You've got it, have you?
Just spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, please, get the cooling.
Because this is the architect's report in here. And he explains why there's a part retrospective in here. Okay? Because they were Northern agreed they were going to demolish so much of the building. But they found that the building was actually unsafe in some areas. So they, it says, during the inspection of new foundation trenches, the approved building inspector from Green Door Building Control reported that existing ground floor walls, bracket due for retention, right, and their foundations were unsuitable to support the proposed first and second floor construction proposed as part of the consented scheme. This observation was discussed in detail with the client and the construction team, and consideration was given to possible methods of support strengthening available, which included underpinning. The contractor was particularly concerned that such strengthening would not provide a suitable solution and would lead to further issues of quality, risk to the health and safety, and potential problems in use later years. So they demolished that part and rebuilt it. That's really what they're saying.
So, right, that's why it's retrospective then.
Yes.
Now, I mean, this is locally listed. Unfortunately, I'm not qualified to go through a local, to decide on a locally listed building what can or can't be saved or a reason for demolition. So I'm tempted to say on this one that we need, in principle, if the facts given by the applicant can be substantiated regarding the listed building,
yes.
I'm not anti the building being replaced, but I would like the heritage officer or the whatever it's called, conservation officer, to confirm that the building cannot be protected in its current state.
Yes.
And I think that's as far as we can actually go.
That's true.
Because I'm very much against us approving demolition of a listed building.
No, I
We
agree.
can't really.
We can't, because we're not qualified to do it.
No.
So are you happy with us saying that?
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So to say that, subject to the conservation officer confirming that the current building state
Means that it has to be.
cannot be preserved,
Cannot be preserved, that's right. Yes.
in brackets, as this is a locally listed building
Yeah,
in the conservation area,
yes.
we're not against a replacement building of similar design.
Yeah. Yes,
Are you both happy with that?
I don't know whether we should go that far, saying that we're happy for a replacement of similar design, or should we? I'm just, that was
Well, because
that was sort of
are we
off the cuff,
out to, if it gets demolished, what do we want to put there? We don't want a block of flats.
No, you're right, no, I'll go with that, I think that's good enough, don't need to go any further, you convinced me.
Is that right? Similar?
Yep.
You know, so in other words, we don't really change the conservation area.
I think this could help, because it's on a very substantial plot, and there's nobody overlooking it. Obviously, there could be an impact on these people. I'm just saying, that does help a bit.
It's,
Substantial plot.
if St Albans had actually said it can be demolished because it's unsafe,
Yes,
I would then look at it a little bit different.
yes, I agree.
But unfortunately, we haven't got that in writing from the...
No.
Well, there was an endemic problem with a lot of those houses built around that period,
Yeah,
that their footings and that were inadequate.
yeah,
And
I understand.
Ox Lane suffers from it, and so do one or two of the ones along here, and more over that side.
Yeah.
It's just a thing of
So is
period.
this the applicant?
This is the
Submission.
architect.
Oh, the architects,
report,
yes,
so
so-
they did
yeah.
actually write to the council by email on
The 18th of April, but we haven't had
But
the
they
council come back and
They
say...
haven't heard anything.
No, so I think I'm not trying to sit on the fence, but on the other hand...
Oh, we've got to on this one.
Yeah, I don't want to say, yes, it can be knocked down, because knowing I've got tomorrow, they'll knock it down. And say, well, the town council said it's going to be all right.
But our comments could actually help people to hasten on this one.
Yeah.
During whatever they decide to do.
I mean, again, I don't mind going on record from the point of view that it's part retrospective. Okay, they talked about
because
their architect, it was unsafe, but once the remedial work has been taken, who can say what was what? That always concerns me a little.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Makes me sceptic.
we'll slightly sit on the fence there, but on the other hand,
Yes,
we've passed comment. Right, I've just got one more to do.
sure.
Page 19. Right, this is 5/2018, 1307, partial demolition
That's
and
right.
conversion of retail unit,
Mm-hmm.
front, side, rear and roof extensions with dormer windows and parapet walls to create an additional 8 one-bedroom and 2 two-bedroom apartments. Alterations to the openings, recladding and associated landscaping works. Station House, 2 to 6 Station Approach, 9 to 10, 11 to 12 Harding Parade. This obviously includes the CMP, which is closing down later this year. Sadly, to lose a retail unit. In that respect. This is quite dramatic, what they're trying to do, but it is an unused and unloved office building.
I just wanted to see if anyone can, because I couldn't pull off any more than this from the website.
No, don't worry.
But because it just froze. Yeah. But I do know something about this building, because one of my neighbours, one of the people in my part of Southdown, phoned me up to say that it was stuffed with rubbish. And in fact, you can even see some of the rubbish in there. And so I contacted our town clerk and car chief has arranged with the owner to have the rubbish cleared up. Okay. So
Taxi drivers just toss stuff into their...
Well,
that's right.
Well, and they use it for worse, but they
Well,
won't
yeah,
go there.
We're all down that road.
I think it would be good to redevelop it. My concern was I couldn't get any pictures of what it was being replaced by, so I didn't know anything about parking or whatever. Or is it? I
Right.
don't think there's any.
Regarding the parking, when I was looking at parking, it said on their application the existing number of spaces were 37, the total proposed would be 32.
Like how many dwellings? Well, it's not dwellings at the moment, it's office, so it's changing its use.
Yeah,
Yes.
so,
Or office stroke retail.
So we're having 8 one-bedroom and 2 two-bedrooms.
So that's 8. Okay, so it's 12.
Yeah.
So it's two cars per, 2 spaces
So
per...
parking,
So
parking
it complies with everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
so, yeah, the previous...
Unusually, this one does.
I don't think there's anyone, this doesn't overlook any houses, you know.
It's all retail.
So
So, I mean, I'm not anti-development at all, but would just like to say it's sad to lose a retail unit.
I agree.
Although, isn't there not provision still for a retail unit?
No, it's going to CMPs at the front, you see.
No, CMP's like, that says retail unit, no, this is what's confused me, it says retail unit, is that a retail unit, or is it, it was retail unit?
That's the thing, I don't know.
I couldn't work that one out when I looked at the smaller version of that one.
I think that's a valid point, Chris, because that's where it is now.
Yeah.
I couldn't find...
I mean, I have personal great difficulties over this one, but they're not planning considerations, so I'll focus myself on the plan.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I think I'll be writing my...
We can't say no objection
Lower
subject to
ground
this being...
floor. Where's lower ground floor then?
It's going to be a basement.
Proposed ground floor. What's this area here?
A retail unit green.
Oh.
Oh, right, so it isn't going to be a
There is going to be a retail there, that was what I put down.
Right, okay, fine, so I couldn't...
So it's just
So
going to be...
it's just going to change the windows.
Yeah.
From big windows we've got at the moment in CMP.
Yes.
So that was
I'm just glad that it being used, that the parking provision is adequate.
I mean, I could be totally facetious and say that I would prefer to have seen it knocked down and nice great big multi-storey car park built there.
You're going to have one on the upper car park.
Right, brilliant.
It will happen later this... Well, the planning will go through this later this year.
There's no doubt that it's a really ugly state, this building, and we're kind of lucky that no one's kind of set fire to it or there are windows.
Thank you,
There's still time, Councillor Cook.
No, I'm pleased that there's a plan now for the redevelopment of this eyesore on the entrance to Harpenden.
So you get off the train, the first thing you see is... Well, it was the Bovis offices in Richmond.
Yes, it was.
Derelict.
Bovis or Jarvis, was it?
Bovis.
Bovis headquarters, yeah.
Before they moved to Birmingham.
Yeah. But anyway, would like, really, I want the retail protected, because with CMP pulling out,
I agree.
I would like to see it. So, so we're going to put that we are...
So we welcome the fact...
We would like to support the current plans,
Subject to retail...
subject to the retail use as shown being protected.
Yes, that's good.
Are you all happy with that? So we're saying
that's fine.
that we want, what we don't want them to say, well, CMP moved out, we'll turn it into a house.
No, and that was why I said, it was starting to say, it was giving me great difficulties with community meeting point conveniently closing at the same time as it was being developed.
Yes,
it didn't look very good.
No. Yes, but that unfortunately is high town. The support.
Yeah.
So, team, I think that reaches the end of the road. So, so a couple more items on the agenda just to go through. Sure. we've done part 5. Letters of rejection.
We have received some which were forwarded on to you, which I will list in a minute.
Okay, thank you very much. Any appeals? No appeals have been for no prior notifications.
None in the future.
We've got the list of the decisions taken by the district. We've got the application for tree works, which we don't need to do. And the date of the next meeting, Tuesday 17th of July. Plans A?
Yep.